Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell. Joining me as always, Nathan Bartleball. Nathan, what is going on, man?
Hey, I'm still here, but you're in a different house now.
Yes, we had we were rocking and rolling with the podcast, and then it was coming up on June, and I was like, we got to try to get some recordings in before we move, because there's no way I'm going to have time to do it, and we never ended up doing it. So we are in July now and back to it. And joining us for this resurgence of our podcast, Greg Dutcher. Greg, what's going on, man?
What's up, players? Man, I miss saying that. Well, we were in our little pre-chat before you went live with us, Nathan. I was enjoying catching up with both you dudes. Had a lot going on. And congrats on the new digs,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Bell.
Sir. Thank you.
And Joy. And you got away from some really nefarious characters on that street. And we don't have to name guys like Andrew and Al and such, but we'll just we'll let the audience do their own research. But no, in all seriousness, I'm pumped for you. And Mr. Bartleball's got me pumped about his talk about taking the kids to a drive-in movie theater. I got to follow suit.
Yeah. And Nathan, we were talking earlier in the day. We're going to be going ahead and doing our Summer of '89 next week, and we thought that you're going to be taking your kids to the drive-in. You're going to see Jaws and Jurassic Park, and so I think it's going to be a good one to bring us into that Summer of '89 episode we're going to do next week. So looking forward to hear your report about how it went with the kiddos.
Yeah, I am. That's going to be a lot of fun. I took my son. Well, I think you came out last year. We actually took my son to go see Jaws at the Senator Theater.
Yep.
So it'll be fun to go. But the kids have never been to a drive-in movie theater, so we're excited, and that's the only choice right now.
Yeah,
right. We've had. I kept waiting for a couple weeks ago. We had E.T. and Back to the Future, which are both really good, and they've both seen those. They've seen Jurassic Park and Jaws as well, but we just didn't get a chance to go then. So I think this will be the right time. The issue, of course, is like Jaws. It's funny actually that they chose to play Jaws first. I like that they did. I think Jaws is a little bit of a better movie than Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
I like them both though. And they're playing Jaws first, and Jurassic Park plays at 11:45, and that's kind of interesting because I don't think Jaws is technically rated R, but right. It probably is closer to an R-rated movie than Jurassic Park is these days.
No doubt.
Right.
And
no doubt.
Not that stopped me from showing a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, but that's neither here nor there.
You know what, dude, grabs me about that? Okay, dating myself here as the oldest among us. Jurassic Park came out, by my calculations, 18 years after Jaws. And Jaws came out, dude, am I right? What was it? 75, right? 45 years ago, is that right?
Yes, it is, because it just last week, or was it this week, had its 45th anniversary.
Wow. And dude, I was 5 when that thing came out, and obviously didn't see it then. But you know what? I don't know if you guys feel like this. Whenever Jaws is on, it's like last time when I talked about Shawshank, I always watch it. Wherever it is, whenever it's on TV, at whatever scene, I pick it up from there and watch it the whole way through. It holds up all that time. It's incredible. With Bruce the puppet and all that stuff. It's incredible. Love it.
Yep. Such a great classic. And so we're looking forward to talking about that, and then jumping into our Summer of '89 episode that we're going to do next week. And then the week after, just for those of you who have been tuning in and staying with us over the past several months, we're going to be doing our Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers episode. So Nathan and I will get on and we'll discuss that the week after. So that's in 2 weeks. And then we'll give the date for our live discussion that we're going to do for that one. I think that was a really good one that we did with the live discussion last time we did it. So we'll plan to do that one again. So, guys, it's good to have you both on here. Greg, I know that you've got to your time is more limited on here, so we want to dive right in. First, there's a lot that's gone on in the over a month since we've recorded, and we're not going to sit here and really dive into the riots and all the things that happened back in early end of May, early June. But we do want to touch on it and, let people know, obviously we're aware of everything that happened. And Greg and Nathan, I want to give you guys a little bit of a chance to respond kind of retroactively in hindsight about things that have been going on. I find whatever situation is going on nowadays, I think disturbing is a good word for it, because it seems to not have any life or traction to it. These issues that come out are very important, but they have their 2-week Facebook spots and highlights, their 15 minutes of fame, so to speak, and then they're left in the wind. And I feel like this is no exception. My brother-in-law, who's a Capital City police officer, during the week that all these things were going on and you had all these riots going on down in DC, he was actually scheduled to be away on vacation, so he didn't have to come back. Came back a week later, and he was basically put on the soft squad, where if something happens, we may call you out. Yeah. And he was like, nothing happened. It was all the intensity happened the week before when all of this happened around the country. And then it was just silent. And I feel like that's really disturbing, because I think with situations like that, the message and the importance of the message gets lost in the hype of the news and the media. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, dude, I mean, that was well said, Nathan. The standout for me is, the way I've tried to position myself in a pastoral sense, use that overly formal adjective, is to posture myself as a listener and to say, hey, why don't we just try to listen? Because I don't know, it's times like this in the speed of information is just, it's in hyperdrive. Things come out every day. And I start thinking, okay, to keep it up with this discussion, and do I have to become an expert on everything from critical race theory to Black Lives Matter origins and agenda and all those things, to the history of the civil rights movement? Probably, like most people, I know some things about each one of those things.
Yeah. But
the degree of confidence that people speak out of their perspective is very pressuring. That's how I've described it to other pastors I've talked to. It just feels very overwhelming. So I've just kind of chosen in this time, myself, and other people make different choices, to say, listen, if you're looking what to do as a Jesus follower, listening and loving, you can't go wrong, right? Yeah. If you just say, I'm going to listen to what people say. And I'll listen to anybody. I listen to the folks that are hitting, and it's the same with COVID, right? The thing is a hoax, it's overhyped, or it's more serious than we thought. Trump is the devil, Trump is an angel, everything in between. I'll listen to it because I'm finding if I give a person maybe my attention, that bodes better for relationships, for opportunities to point people to Christ. So that's kind of how I've landed. Not that it's answers everything, but I have felt very overwhelmed, and Facebook is a dumpster fire. So those are my comments.
Yes.
I'll
Good comments.
Bartleball jump in on that, what he thinks. But
yeah, Nathan.
Facebook is a dumpster fire.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, lately I've been taking refuge in horror movie forums, if that tells you anything.
Right.
I found that the horror community is actually quite a gentle sort.
In
less reality.
Stress, less
they're
stress,
cool.
Yeah.
You get it all out by watching people hack people up with chainsaws. That's
oh my goodness. Wow.
But seriously, not to make any kind of joke about that, it is a dumpster fire. I know what you're saying, Greg, and I do agree. I think that we need to listen and we have to pay attention, and I find a lot of what's going on heartbreaking. I think I think it's important to remember the reasoning that's going on beneath a lot of these things, particularly starting with it was very shocking. And we have three white guys are sitting here talking. But again, I think if three white guys aren't paying attention and willing to contribute to putting an end to some of these things that are going on in regards to the racial imbalance, I think it does absolutely exist. You can't watch a man with his knee on another guy's neck, regardless of what brings the two to that spot. There have been some others. The one, and it's like you said, there's so much going on that I realize how little I know and how little has passed me by. Recently they were talking about the young boy with autism. I don't know if you saw that one, and it was last year. And while he was being killed, essentially, he was saying, "Please, I'm different, but I'm still okay." I'm like, can you imagine if I'm in a position where I have to say, "I know I'm different"? Can you imagine if I'm knowing that my last words are going to be, "I know I'm different"? I can't. If I can't conceive of that, but love is a good keyword, I suppose, and it's a word that we like to use a lot, but I don't know. I think sometimes love, particularly from the Christian perspective, does mean trying to walk a little bit in other people's shoes and understand it, and we just have to admit that we just do not, And I realize that a part of the reason I can't is because of the color of my skin. I don't mean that in any kind of woke fashion, but I just think it's a reality, Yeah. When I hear my friends and my family talk about what their experience is like because of this one distinctive factor, and the fact that it still exists, and the fact that I have to sit and tell my son, who's like, "Wait, I thought that was gone a long time ago." Well, no, it's not. And it's now time that you understand that it's not gone. And I think as Christians, we do want to listen. We do want to love. The one thing I won't listen to, though, and unfortunately, it's on Facebook, and it is mired even in with good intentioned people, is hate. I realize.
Oh, agreed.
There's a lot of hate sown through even people who think they're being, I don't want to get into it politically, but I'll see people talk for hours and hours about what should happen to statues, but they will quickly defer the discussion about race and say we've always had those problems.
Right.
And I
think you're making a lot of
there's
good
a problem if we're at that point. There's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you guys, it's an issue for us. My daughter goes to a college with a Civil War general in the name, and that's been a discussion for years there, even before she went there. She's about to start her junior year there. If there is a there this year, who knows? Where everything is tentative with COVID. But I think what you said there is very telling. And part of the listening, look, it varies from person to person. We're white, middle-class dudes, right, fellas? So I think we know some things. There's some things we know intellectually, we don't know experientially.
People who listen to this podcast know we don't know a lot, but I'm learning to know even less.
We do know a lot of useless trivia. Bell and I could quote many, many lines from Ash versus the Evil Dead, and we can
fill in the rest. I'm sure.
Yes, we can speak more confidently on those things. I'll speak less confidently on a complex, racially nuanced issue or something. But no, I think my point is that you kind of know where you start. Know where your limitations are. And again, I think if we think experientially rather than intellectually, it helps. Because I think people are so quick to go to what they know or think they know intellectually. Yeah. And to me, this whole thing going on is kind of like marriage counseling. Guys, in all the marriage counseling I've done, it seems like it would be easier to get there. Now, I'm going to overgeneralize a little bit here, and I think you'll track with me. This can go from wife to husband, husband to wife. But typically what I see is a wife will share her frustrations and chronicle 3 or 4 things that are really weighing her down. And when I ask the husband to respond, typically the response is, well, you shouldn't feel that way because ABC, XYZ. And I try to get people to see, and I have to see it myself, that's not the starting point, right? I mean, the starting point should be, this is how she feels. So if you don't validate the feeling, you're not going to go anywhere in the discussion. And I think people are so quick, if somebody with an opposing viewpoint says, hey, I feel this way, we are equipped with our own arsenal of intellectual arguments, etc., to pull out argument number 3, because that one really buries that. And we're telling the person, I think unintentionally, I don't care how you feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's often I listen to that. Look, I'll pick, well, I'm not hiding anybody's names. Ben Shapiro has a popular phrase, and there's truth in it. It says facts don't care about your feelings. And I see people wearing that on T-shirts and that sort of thing. My response to that is, yeah, but dude, feelings matter. You know what I mean?
Let me also, this is going to be snarky, but I don't really care. The people that wear that facts don't care about your feelings are also ones that are crying when they change Splash Mountain. I'm just saying.
Right. Hey, we can all speak to that with personal experience, right? No, it's there's a lot of truth to that, dude. You're right. You know, there's when it intersects with us, we care.
Which I think is largely part of this problem is the fact that we can kind of distance ourselves from it because it isn't directly affecting us. But then when you see extreme actions, it's because extreme actions try to get attention, right? Your attention. If I continue not to pay attention to you, I will eventually have to like bring it directly to your front yard, right? To your front doorstep to get you to hear me and hear my voice. And when it's been this long, you know, I don't want to wait until it's on my doorstep. It kind of is, but.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah. Did we, Brother Bell, did we delicately address those issues?
About as delicately as 3 white dudes can, right?
You can cut the Splash Mountain line if you need to.
Yes. Hey, I will in that, since I asked that. I love the Splash Mountain line, dude. Leave that. That's my vote.
Well, they're leaving it. They're just turning it into the Princess and the Frog.
Right.
No, they are. That's what they're doing with it. It's remaining
is that right?
in its essence. Yeah.
Oh, that's what the issue is. I see. Okay. Yeah. I got you. Well, I would say to that I am concerned, and I don't have the answers to it, you know, what's often called the whole cancel culture thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how that plays out. I can speak from experience that when issues are heated, which they are more heated than ever right now, and since I'm in a profession where speaking to issues is kind of assumed, there's fear there. I want that. You guys may or may not have seen Lou Giglio, who I think has been a very strong spokesperson, from a Christian sort of pastoral perspective for racial reconciliation for years. I mean, I've heard him talk about these things for years. Mm-hmm. And I think being centered in Atlanta, a whole different context there, a whole different history with the civil rights movement, et cetera. This is an issue that has concerned him for years. He did an event you may or may not have seen with Lecrae, and I think there were 1 or 2 other folks there. And he's apologized many times. He misspoke. Yeah, I get that from a pastoral perspective, since I misspeak all the time, every single week. Mm-hmm. It may be a minor thing, but often, you know, when I talk to people, I say, "Oh my goodness, I see what you're saying. That wasn't carefully worded," and you apologize, you contextualize it, and hopefully you move on. But there is, I've read a lot of the comments. That's the dumpster fire portion from all across the spectrum. And the amount of people that demand kind of an instant punishment, it concerns me. Yeah. It concerns me, because I don't think we're going to make any progress if we're afraid to speak, which carries with it.
What was said, Greg? I just don't, because I don't know that situation. I just I tend to agree with what you're saying, but I'm afraid I don't know what the guy actually said. So
yeah, well, again, here's a very overly simplified, condensed version. He was doing this panel. If I remember rightly, Martin Luther King's daughter was supposed to be at that event and was sick or something, or couldn't be there. And I knew Lecrae was there, and I think there may have been 1 or 2 others. And Louis Giglio was speaking about slavery, and he's trying to address the ever delicate subject of white privilege. And he used the phrase in connection to slavery, white blessing, which definitely had the sound and the smack of it. Lecrae himself has said he was uncomfortable when Giglio said it. It has the sound of, hey, slavery really worked out for white people. It was a blessing. I've seen Giglio address this now in 4 or 5 different venues. I mean, I don't know the man from Adam, but based on everything I can say, it made sense. It was a terrible choice of words. It's not what he sought to communicate and did it really poorly. Feels that he added fuel to an already blazing fire, and has asked forgiveness of the black community in his church, abroad. Anybody that was offended, he understands why. But even in that, I've heard a lot of it doesn't matter. You need to step down. You need to be done, etc. And I'm like, wow, that scares me because
I hear it. I think it's a hard one because, and again, that's one I don't really know exactly. I mean, that sounds pretty terrible. I will say that. Maybe he was trying to say something else. Sometimes we try
terrible.
to make a point.
It was terrible.
And the problem is, I think that what we are seeing and what we seem to be, what we're noticing is these things just aren't gone, and the past 4 or 5 years have just been a reemphasis of this fact. And in this point of weeding it out, you hear something like that and you have to wonder whether it spoke from the heart or it's a simple slip up. And I get your fear is like, I am always worried about that, about saying something I said right now, like even the fact of talking about this, like I'm sure 50 minutes, we're like, delete the whole thing, Nathan. We'll do it. We'll just talk about movies next week. But I think, the problem is that there is a lot of this. I think we have to, not in again, it's not about key phrases or key terms woke, but it's being careful about what you're saying. And I think some of this is going overly hard to try and justify all these things or try to talk from this white perspective. And I think a lot of it is just about, like Greg, you kind of said, it's a little bit of shut up and listen right now.
Yeah.
Listen carefully, listen with actual love, and understand that there's a lot of your neighbors and your friends and your family who are hurting in ways that you will probably never hurt. And until and really, I mean, who can do something about white supremacy? Like not a white supremacist, but if there's this concept of white supremacy, of white privilege, white people can do something about it. You may look at it from, well, I can't speak to it, but can I continue to? Can I show actual solidarity in a way that isn't that doesn't come off as demeaning or doesn't come off as clueless? And I think a lot of what you just said, that what he was attempting to do, comes off as like it comes off really twisted at worst, and at best it just looks like it kind of pathetic.
It does.
Like,
it's
wow,
tone. It was very. I think the word it was tone deaf.
Not clued in. Yeah.
Tone deaf is the word that comes to mind, and. I mean, obviously we have to be very cautious to speak on a personal level. I've talked about my departed friend and mentor, Roscoe, who was a black man who grew up in the Deep South. And he was the first person that I ever really talked with about these issues from somebody who experienced segregation, who experienced just really blatant racism. I grew up in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, which was a segregated town at the time. And part of it is I can't separate my personal connection to this man that I loved and aspired to from these discussions, because we talked about this stuff all the time. He was so gracious to me because I would tell him, I said, Roscoe, I feel like I'm going to say something stupid. And he goes, that's all right, because you're going to say something stupid because you're a sinner. I'm going to say something stupid because I'm a sinner. And the freedom we had in that relationship. Now, I think what you're bringing up, Nathan, speaks to public discourse and why it's so much harder, because there's not a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But I think like something you said there is like, because of the personal relationship you have, and we have to have more than we have to be able to have that. People don't seem to have any creative empathy anymore. And what I mean by creative empathy is not coming up with a creative way, but the ability to even, yes, I can't necessarily understand what you've gone through. But when I don't even try to think how you may feel or you may think about this thing that I take for granted, I don't think it's a big deal. But you know what? If it's causing you pain, particularly as a child of God and questioning your own worth and things like that, I mean, these things do matter. I am not a fan of the cancel culture. I think that it is very knee-jerk. It is very reactionary. That being said, I don't always see, and I'm not a fan of banning books and things and stuff like that. However, some of these questions we're having now about certain changes to things that have been the way they've always been, I welcome those things. And I think that some of them are legitimate.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said, brother. I'm with it. Yeah, the cancel culture. Who doesn't get the impulse? We want people to rightly pay for crimes. I mean, the obvious example: somebody shoots up a fast food joint and ruins hundreds of lives. When you extrapolate out from those people whose lives were lost, we want that person appropriately penalized and punished. It's a natural human instinct. It speaks of God's heart, justice, etc. And on a personal level, when you start thinking about your kids and think, oh, if my kid ever does something stupid or says something stupid, and they're going to because they're sinners, you start weighing that. You know what I mean? It's the classic tension between law and grace is what I see playing out in this. That I think you need law, but we crave
there's
grace.
Also a thing, and I think we could probably, I don't know if we can agree on it, but I do think there's also sort of that element of like in this situation, right? Particularly so in the sorts of situations we're talking about. Yeah, sometimes when it's like, oh, that person did this, they need to instantly be fired and they need to be removed. And I agree, some of the stuff can move so quickly. I don't, firing and what that entails. I think that there is the problem with some of these situations is you do have people speaking from a very big, stage, if you will. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, Greg, the most people that you and I will ever talk to, and the people you talk to will be bigger than probably the audience I have, and so on and so forth. But I think that is there a concern? Okay, my job is not my thoughts I have as a fry cook at McDonald's, right? And you fired me because you heard me say whatever. This is a guy who's speaking. And pastorally, when people are speaking and they're supposed to be representing, in a sense, the Lord and speaking, not representing the Lord, but you know what I mean, is like people from the outside look at that and they say, okay, that person is a pastor. They're supposed to be, they're unpacking what they believe, God's heart is, and they're saying these things. And I don't agree necessarily that is always a correct supposition, but I think people look at it and think, well, okay, they're speaking, they're preaching the word of God, and they just said that.
Yes.
And I think that's sticky because it's like, well, that might be a very large audience, but that's the fear, is like we have to remove all the bears and all the lions and tigers from the woods so we could just walk along our way happily without ever considering what we're going to step on. And so life just simply isn't that way,
Dude, was it not Uncle Ben Parker who said, with a great audience comes great responsibility, or something like that? So, wasn't it something like that? No, I agree. I think there's no doubt about it. You're right. The individual that's just kind of out and about, he's talking to his group of friends, maybe a couple of coworkers. I mean, the words always matter, but no, that's the classic to me. I guess the biblical way, to whom much is given, much has been required. If that given in that scenario is a large audience and a responsibility to shepherd them well, yeah, I agree. It's significant.
Nathan just set us off on this course and let us go.
I noticed that.
But I'll say I do. Yeah. His point is well taken. Like, Nathan, what you said, I think is kind of the thing is we're all getting distracted again, right? Like these issues, the racial issues that were at the heart of what sparked this are the things I want to see addressed and fixed and changed. Sure. Well, and these other things are all going to be parts of it, but it's everyone gangpiling now, right? Everyone's jumping on their preferred element, and we're going to lose sight of it. We're going to spend all of our conversations about something else, and it is about love, it is about empathy, and it is about, if someone out there is not free in the same way I am, then what does it matter that I'm free?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if I don't feel that way, I think that's the issue. I think the people, for me, that's the thing is, okay, if I'm going to love my neighbor, I want to see my neighbor really, truly be as free and have the same opportunities that I have. I don't mean in every specific way, but there it is.
Yeah.
Well said, dude.
So now I'll kind of jump in here. It's fascinating, just kind of jumping back and listening to a lot of what was being said, because I think I think first we forget, when we're talking about anyone and anything they do, whether they're a believer or not, Greg, we've talked about this many times. Look at the church fathers, look at Augustine, look at Luther, and look at their life. These were not perfect men, and we have the advantage of looking back and actually seeing their imperfections, and yet we're willing to give these people a pass. I mean, Luther, for a considerable part of his life, was very, very anti-Semitic.
No doubt.
And you see that in much of his writings and things like that. Yet, we bypass those things in the name of history and say, let's just move beyond that.
Yeah.
And I think we've always had the problem, or at least recently in the church, we've had the problem of, not being able to look at someone who is openly seeking forgiveness for something that they genuinely messed up on, and just saying, you know what, we're all sinners. It doesn't matter if you're a pastor or a school teacher or a social worker or a car repairman. You're human, and you're saved by the grace of God, and that grace is renewed each and every day. The Bible tells us, his mercies are new each and every morning. And we forget that, as big as Louis Giglio's platform is, can we acknowledge and accept the fact that he's, as a man of God, and if he truly is a man of God, that I believe he is. I've followed his career a little bit more, and I like his preaching. I've enjoyed the things that he's had to say on all varying issues and how he approaches people and meets people in their needs. That, even somebody like that, if this is truly the person who he says he is and who I think he is, then he is dealing with that on a level far greater than anything I say about him is going to matter. This is a matter that has sweeping implications because of his platform. But at that same time, I believe that he's dealing with that shame and guilt, and he's got to deal with that, under the discipline of, his conscience and God and his church and all of that stuff. And as a spectator, can I have enough sense to know that I don't have this relationship with him, and to just say,
Sure,
you know what, let that be dealt with, because that's not for me to sit here and make judgments on. If it was intentional, then that's for him and his church to go ahead and to make those, arrangements of, hey, we need to work on, whatever discipline should come out. And if it was an accident and we just, your apology should be sufficient, let that be what it is. See, I think the problem is, in America, we feel like we have access to everyone because of the entertainment medium, whether it's church or whether it's Hollywood, whether it's sports. We feel this connection that, Greg, you talked about feelings, and I agree, our feelings are real and we need to deal with them, but we also have to come to grips with the fact we do not know half of the people we think we know.
Oh, sure.
That we are not in relationships with these people to be passing these judgments on what's going on in their hearts. Now, we can make a judgment on the situation and say, yeah, that was stupid, he shouldn't have said that.
Sure.
But going beyond that, that's really not our role in business. And I love the fact that you guys aren't trying to make it your role in your business to do that. And so, let me just say that. But I want to, for our listeners out there, I engage with enough groups and people on Facebook, the dumpster fire, as it were. And we love passing these judgments on people that we have no clue, because we feel this connection. I followed Louis Giglio for this long, and so I feel like I have a right to speak into this situation and what's going on.
Or people feel personally betrayed because,
right,
like you said, there's this feeling of like, oh, he's my uncle, but he's not,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
Like the close personal connection that is kind of one of those weird elements. The one thing I'll say, I agree, Nathan. The one thing I would just throw out there, and that's the other thing, people they want it gone, they don't want to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
They don't know. Does anyone want to sit down with Lou and actually talk to him? And
Right.
I can't speak, but if it was a mistake, then I think he may, or if he realizes, wow, I am thinking about that wrong, I would say, and again, this is just my opinion, I would think that as a Christian, as someone who wants to see, God glorified and showing love, that he, instead of just maybe putting a hasty, hey, I spoke, if you misunderstood me, let me tell you what I really meant. Or maybe and not in a sense of, he's got to prove something to us or he has to do this. But I think we are at a time where it's like there's so many people that just want to apologize and move on. And I don't know that this is a sin or is this misspeaking? And if it's misspeaking, maybe taking some time to educate himself and then speak again. I think that's the better way forward here. And then people have to be, you're putting yourself back out there. You're being humble, but you're also not just saying, I messed up. I know a lot of times when people just want to keep saying, I apologized already. Well, fine, but speak to it. Show that you're more than what they think you are,
Yeah, I think
my
that's
suggestion.
I love that. That's a key element. And I do think Giglio said, again, I'm paraphrasing.
I don't really know that much about him, and I didn't know the situation. I was just in a general sense when these things happen.
Well, he was, by all accounts, looks very, from what you can observably tell, looks very heartbroken by it. I think it was a great source of anguish for him, the way I've heard him and read some things he's written since then. Mm-hmm. But I do think one of the things he said that stood out to me, and I resonate with this as a pastor, was often, here's the other side of it, you feel like, I've got a group of people that I'm responsible to help lead and shape and help them think through their responses to the massive shifts in our culture that seem to be going on all the time. And that can come with an unrealistic timeline. Where this Sunday I've got to have all the answers. And I think that for pastors to say to their congregations, large or small, hey, let me tell you what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to listen. I do want to respond. There's a tightrope there, right? Because obviously we should bring God's word to bear on everything. And there are some things that say, just give me a little more time. Mm-hmm. Most of us have arrived at things that we hold dear. We didn't arrive at those because we heard one sermon or read one book, right? We've talked about those with those we trust. They've nuanced our thoughts. They've shaped it. They've challenged us. We've lived it. Yeah, I used to think this, and then I would try this, and I fell flat on my face. Now I've added this tweak to it. You know what I mean?
Don't tweet. I don't have a lot of absolutes, but don't tweet.
Tweet. No, I said tweak. Right, but
tweet. Yes. I didn't mean you specifically, but I was just saying, if I've learned anything, it's don't tweet.
Yes, and definitely don't tweet in a stream of consciousness way. I'll just leave it at that. Stream of consciousness tweeting is probably
your Frankenstein's monster or Tarzan.
You're probably not going to build the healthiest platform for relational.
I like to use cryptic words in all caps with exclamation marks and no surrounding context. I like to keep people guessing.
You're not kidding, dude. I mean, it's the classic James, right? Be slow to speak, right? You're quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. That has to apply. But Mr. Bell, in our old days, these go to 11 days. I think the most listened to podcast, am I right, we ever had was when we had Tully and Chimidian as a guest.
Yeah.
And I remember you made that point, I thought, very well in the days leading up and following, because there was a lot in motion, real-time developments. We kind of landed right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
When we talked to Tully, and I remember, because there were things leading up to it.
Oh, no, yeah.
And then a week later, we got other stuff happening. And I do remember, and Nathan, I thought it was a great point. You held true to that we weren't BFFs with Tully. And he was a guest on a show that we did one night. And, we weren't his best friend. I will say since then, I do keep in touch with him from time to time via text. I mean, 2 or 3 times a year. Yeah. And I've actually reached out to him when I was going through my own wilderness and, when I was clinically depressed, as I've talked about before. And got some great encouragement. But you said at the time, and I thought you've echoed that here, we're not responsible, and because we're not the ones in relationship with them. At some degree, you have to trust the people that are in relational connection with the person in question.
Right.
In this case, Lou Giglio's leadership team, those that know him the best. At some point, you step back and say, look, these guys walk with him every day. They know him. They're going to have a much better sense of his heart than we will. And you do have to trust that people, but it does underscore, doesn't it? Beware the person with no accountability.
Yeah.
Because if somebody is showcasing,
I think too, there's that fact. I won't get into the Tillian thing, but I mean, there are differences here between what happens with those two guys. I don't want to remotely.
No doubt about
the Lou situation, but I don't think we can lump that one in with this one. I know you're not, but I just to put it out there.
That wasn't
clear.
Absolutely.
We aren't necessarily, is it misspeaking? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it a lack of misjudging the audience? Or, is a very different situation potentially.
Agreed.
It's like Nathan said, we don't know quite how deep it goes.
Yeah. Well, and I think even too, we can take issues, in the opposite direction. Nathan, you mentioned, and I agree with you that, that my brother's freedom, should be of concern to me, but I shouldn't try to empathize so much where I get to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about, man. Yeah, I get it. You can flip so far into the other direction where as a white person, if I try to, sit there and pretend that I'm not and, pretend that I totally get it and understand that I'm shooting myself in the foot as well. That, I think what's important for us in times like this is to, stand in solidarity with what is right. And clearly the Bible speaks that, that we are all free in Christ, that we are brothers and sisters, and that God doesn't look on one person with, it says there's neither Jew nor Greek. I mean, if we're going to talk about, racial divisions, I mean, you can go all the way back to that comment in the Bible, and understand that, this was a strong racial division. You're either a Jew or you're not. And in the eyes of the Jews, that's all there is to it. We're God's chosen people. I mean, and Greg, you've said it many times, and I think it's so profound. The Bible doesn't condone the reality of what's going on. It just speaks to it. That the reality of the racial divisions that were going on in biblical times weren't condoned from the Bible. It's just merely stating this is what's going on. But we see very clearly God's heart in verses like that. There's neither, slave nor free, Jew nor Greek, male nor female, that God looks at his children as his children, and there are no upper class citizens or lower class citizens in God's kingdom. And so very, simply understanding that, I'm going to speak to the inequality and say, this isn't right. And so how are we going to move forward with this and change this? And I think that's probably one of my biggest disheartening things when it comes to something like this is that, there's this sentiment and this cry of, things need to be different and let's change them. And then it goes silent.
Yeah.
And you don't, until the next big thing happens, you're not going to hear anything about it. And to me, that's sad. And I feel like if we keep doing that, we're never going to change anything until we are saying that this is something that it needs to be on our hearts and our minds, and we need to be actively pursuing ways in which we can stop this. And I say that fully understanding that, let's face it, it's like poverty. We're never going to stop poverty. It's sin. It's never going to stop. But as a Christian, how can I actively stand with my brothers and sisters who are facing these issues and support you in a Christ-like biblical way that is going to affect change and that's going to make a difference? And I think that's how we need to approach this, not saying that I stand with you in such a way where I condone everything you do, or the opposite way where I'm going to turn a blind eye and ignore everything that's going on. But how can I stand with my brothers and sisters in Christ and help you in this and what is going on? And to go back to what you, Greg and Nathan both said, the only way we're going to do that is by being in relationship with people and listening to them and listening to what they have to say and moving forward hand in hand with them in that direction.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, just very quickly, Nathan, with what you're saying, I completely agree. And your point that you made there, and when I say empathy, I'm not actually talking about someone saying, "Hey, I know what you mean, man. I can totally understand," because I actually don't find that to be empathy. I find that to be, it's a lot of things. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to feel on the outside. We want to show that we are good friends, good neighbors, good Christians. But I mean actual empathy, trying to empathize and understand how another person is feeling. And in doing so, you understand that if I don't feel safe from law enforcement that are supposed to keep me safe, if I don't feel equal with people directly next to me that there's no other discernible difference to, I don't think Nathan Bartleball coming to me saying, "I know, I got your back, man. I know how that is." It's going to help me at all. It's the empathy to understand that there's more. It's actions. It's like you said, solidarity is not posting a thumbs up on Facebook or a little heart when somebody admits that they're afraid and they're frustrated. Got your back, man. Here's the little circle face hugging the heart. Like, great, thank you. But like you said, it's actions. It will only take the actions of other people who aren't having that experience to be able to say, I empathize enough to still want to see the thing changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Dudes, for me, if you guys would keep, that's a perfect time to go. That was a great discussion. Guys, we were serious for like 45 minutes.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what to do with this. I mean, guys, I've done all the thinking I could do for the week. I was supposed to go preach a sermon, but I think I'm going to go home and watch like the Jackass movie marathon or something.
I just got to see some back hair ripped off at high velocity.
Exactly, man. I need to see somebody drinking like a warm Pabst Blue Ribbon beer on a porch somewhere. And
that's I take the back hair getting ripped off. Well said. No, we're still doing a lot of filming of the different elements, ahead of time to work out the kinks. I know we were elements of. Is it for the services?
Exactly. Yeah. For the.
So are you guys back in the building now, Greg, or?
Not yet. We are having periodic outdoor gatherings, but are very close, guys. Very close to a tentative rollout plan.
Nice.
But of announcing that, but we're still working through some of the particulars. But yeah, the 12th of July is our next on the lawn, on the line or on the lawn event. I love it because we get to quote Vince Vaughn every single time from The Internship. On the line, online, on the line, online. So
and that's all anybody wants, right? To quote Vince Vaughn.
The Vince Vaughn. Who doesn't wake up this morning? So I hope I get a chance to quote Vince Vaughn. That's what I do. But no, this is great, fellas.
Yeah, it was awesome. And Greg, we'll be in touch, sometime soon. Get you back on here, and we'll do one a little less serious.
Yeah, dude.
Do you want to talk about the movies in 1989?
Oh man, you guys are doing that next week?
Next week, yeah.
All right, dude. Same time, roughly.
Same time, same bad channel.
Yeah.
I'll text you, dudes. I'll hit you back. Let me look at that. May actually work because I would love to jump.
Talk about that. Batman and the Last Crusade and
some good ones, man. Some good ones.
Young Einstein. Yeah. Actually, I have no idea if that came.
Well, dude, that was I was 18 going on 19 that summer. I remember it well. But Batman, dude, nobody was more. I was so pumped for that. Tim Burton. I'll let you know, dudes, for sure.
We'll hit you up, brother.
Take care, fellas. Greg, have a good one.
All right, see you.
You too. Bye.
Great conversation, Nathan. We were gonna talk about this, we knew we wanted to bring it up. And actually, I think the conversation ended up going a lot better than you and I initially thought. When we were kind of texting earlier today, we were like, I don't know how much I want to really go into this without another perspective there. But I think, we did a good job navigating this. I do, before we sign off here, I want to talk a little bit about COVID. It's been a while. We were kind of talking, that's really all we were talking about for a while when it first started. But things are opening up again. And I want to talk to you about, have you been able to go out and do dinner with the family at all and just kind of get out there and be out and about and how things are going on that front, with,
We've done a
opening.
little. We probably, I don't get into a lot of details with it. We move out and then we end up having to move back a little bit due to various things. You'll find out that so we're still trying to be very cautious. Part of that is because we do have people who are. I think everyone does. Everyone has people who are in the vulnerable set, and we kind of got maybe a little. We weren't doing crazy things, but you advance a little bit. You start going on. We did one weekend go, and it's been several weeks back now, so I think it's beyond the range we would know if we had gotten sick. We did go, and we went to a restaurant, and we actually went over to Conrad's here, and we went inside and everything. But nice. I think looking back, I probably will back off a little bit from that. Just we. Not necessarily right here where we are, but we are seeing some cases. It's, you want to get back into things. But what we've been trying to look to do is do everything that we can do that is safe. I suddenly realized it's like, I don't want to push buttons that are going to result in my family getting sick. There's a part of me struggles against it. Why are we doing this? Why,
sure.
We know why we're doing it. We know the ultimate reason we're doing it. It's not just for us. It's not just for our immediate family. And it's for, we're doing it for others as well, and so we've got to do some things. We are going to go to the drive-in movie theater. They have rearranged things, so there's multiple spaces between everybody. Nice. And so I think with all of that, you get into just trying to do what's safe. We'd started to go to a small pool where, when they're staying outdoor, that's relatively safe. We've backed off from that a little bit. It's not one way. It was kind of you pay to get in, but then you pay to become a part of a group. It's not people just can't pay money and get in. So it's not a public pool in the sense people are coming in. Tons of people are coming in. So it was but again, trying to do things that are reasonable. It's hard because you're now into the summer. You're working. Well, I'm still working from home. My wife is doing school, and so we can't spend every moment with the kids. So they end up, on their electronics and stuff. And so it's like, how do you differentiate the time? You know, when you get to the evening, it's like we go watch a movie. So it's being creative. I was talking to Greg earlier, and you as well. Like we would try to come up with creative things. We try to get games, board games, and see people who we know. Okay, you haven't seen anybody in a while, and I know you haven't, and so we can get together and do what we can. So we've been doing a little bit of that. We've been been doing a lot of is we'll go get food. I'm actually going to do it with the kids tonight, and then go to a park or somewhere and sit. Nice. So a lot of it's just doing things that probably always used to do and just haven't done in a bit. Getting plenty of exercise, getting out and doing things, and just trying to be engaging. We get to some fireworks for the kids to do something for the 4th of July and seeing family when it's appropriate and in the right venue. Sometimes that's standing at the edge of the driveway and talking to, relatives from a distance, but it's still, you're seeing them. So,
yes. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, things were certainly interesting. Of course, Joy and I, we went down to the Outer Banks, which it's almost like a different world down there because they're not, or at least when we were down there, the end of May, beginning of June, they weren't strictly enforcing masks everywhere. And so some places you had to wear masks, some places you didn't, so we were respectful of that where they required them, we did, and where they didn't, we didn't. And so we were able to spend some time with her immediate family there. Of course, that was over a month ago now. And so, we're quite certain that we didn't catch anything from doing that, which is good. And then, really our time's been consumed more with the house and everything that's been going on with that. we did get a chance to, the Lovelaces, good friends of ours, helped us during the moving process. And so, right across the street, as you know, from where we are now, we have this Chinese restaurant, Arigatos, or Japanese restaurant. And so we, got dinner from there a couple times and just brought it back to the house and ate.
How is it? Because I still haven't tried it. I've been meaning to.
Very good. Very good. I highly recommend it. Not only is their hibachi menu excellent, but their sushi is fantastic as well. So, a little bit above what I would say Chopstick is, but I would also say the food's a little bit better quality than Chopsticks too. So,
cool, yeah, and I think they give you a decent amount too.
They do.
What I understand.
Yeah, huge portions. I have no complaints whatsoever from them. I've ordered there now 2 or 3 times, and every time it's been something different, and I've been happy with it. So, really, I've enjoyed that. And so things like that, where we'll have family over and we'll just order food in. I will say, we had our aunt and uncle were over here helping us, and we went to the beer hall and we ate outside. They have a nice outdoor area set up there. Where
we did that as well.
Distanced.
We had a fun time.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not lost any of its charm or atmosphere being there. And so we had a great time being there together, visiting with my brother and sister-in-law. They tremendous help in our moving. And so we spent a lot of time with them. The girls are coming up here tomorrow. Joyce is going to go out with her sister-in-law to an afternoon tea. And so I'll be here babysitting. So, things like that have really just kept us busy and tied to the house more than anything. So it'll be interesting. I've gone down to school a few times to work from the office, but of course I'm the only one in the office because it's summertime. So I'm really not afraid of, getting anything, because after everything let out, they did a huge scrub through of the building. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the summer progresses. One of my biggest things that I'm working on right now is, as a school administrator, what is it going to look like going back in the fall? And so trying to work through all those plans and preparations. But we've been enjoying, as things have been more slowly opening up, we've been enjoying going out and experiencing more things. It's been nice entering a new neighborhood because people are, of course they're curious. And so we've had a lot more interactions, socially distanced, obviously, with people than we have over the past several months. But it's been nice meeting the neighbors, even in this time of social distancing, kind of across the street. Hey, how's it going? I'm your new neighbor. So those are really where our priorities and where our things have landed the past several weeks that we've been offline. So definitely been an adventure.
Yeah, cool. And it's, we'll have to get over sometime eventually.
Yeah,
we will.
No, we're looking forward to it, and we've had that conversation as well. Hey, we got to see if the Bartleballs can come over, and even if we can do something, outside on the front lawn, So
you got a yard where my kids can set off fireworks?
Actually, we have a nice big backyard, so yeah, they could do that.
Yeah, because that's the problem here. It's like I don't want to catch another house on fire.
Yeah, no, you got plenty of room, man. 4th of July. Well, this was great. I'm glad we were able to get back into it. I'm looking forward to next week's Summer of '89. Possibly Greg Dutcher coming back on. We want to remind people we are still very much alive. Things just got postponed a little bit during my move because it wasn't just a move. We were doing some repairs and fixing up of the house as well. So now that we are almost all settled in, we should be recording more regularly from here on out. So check us out next week, Summer of '89, and then check us out in 2 weeks for The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So Nathan, until next week, we just rocked the Casbah.
These go to 11.